Okay, so today we're going to do a review of the assignment 3. Okay, I know you guys found it a little challenging, right? um, so we're going to do a review, but I'm proud of you guys for sticking with it, and you guys turned in a good programs. I'm proud of you guys. In fact, like, if I even my work colleagues, if I give that problem, I know that most of them will find it very challenging. Okay, so you guys should be very proud of yourself for trying it and sticking to it. Okay, so in any problems that are given to you guys, initially it'll seem very daunting, like, how am I going to get this done? So so it all comes down to practicing and solving many problems. When you solve a lot of small many problems, you will begin to see patterns emerge, and then those patterns you can reuse in other problems that you see. So it has to do with repetition. Okay, so the more problems that you practice, you will see the patterns that emerge. Okay, so but today I just want to go over the assignment. I'm going to do the assignment. So hopefully you will see the the train of thought that I will go through when I solve a problem. Okay, so just to remind, the problem is given two dates, year, month, and day of month, uh, for start and end. We're going to figure out how many days are in between. Okay, that was the problem. So the way I would first approach is that I would look at the base case, or the simple case where I can solve for it right away. So in this case, the base case would be, suppose if the given two dates are the same, then I know that the difference, the days in between, is 0, right? That's like the base case. Okay, and then a little more, a step ahead of a step after that would be, suppose if the dates are within the same month of same year, then how would I know the difference? Say for example, if the first date is first of some month, and the second date is let's say 10th of a month, so it's a 10th day of that month. So in that case, what will be my the difference, or the number of days in between? It will be just the difference of those two dates, right? It will be end date minus, or end day minus start day. So let's start writing the function. So that's what I would do. So let's say I would say calculate uh, number of days in between, and arguments for my function would be, let's say start year, start month, start day, and also end year, end month, and end day. Okay, so my base case, as I said, um, if year, or start year, equal end year, and start month equal end month, in this case I would return, what would I return? I was saying
Start day minus the end day.
End day minus start day.
Yeah,
End day minus.
end date, right? Because start will be less than, you don't want to return a minus, so it'll be end day minus start day. Okay, that's my base case. Okay, everybody sees that. So I gave you guys a picture of how I would visualize the problem, right? So this is basically the base case, where I have my year and month are the same, right? And all I have to do is, for the difference, It's just I look at the end date minus start date. So the example here I gave was start was 10th of January and the end was 25th. So the difference would be end date minus start date, which is 25 minus 10. Okay, so that's my base case. The second case would be when the year is same, but the months would be different. So in this case, I gave an example, January 10th to March 15th. Okay. So in this case, what I need to figure out is that, let's say the start of some month, I need to figure out how many days are remaining in that month, right? That's one function I need. I also need another function that says how many days in a month, right? That's the whole month, because if there are months in between those start and end dates, I need to calculate the full days of the month, right? So remainder of the month, full days of the month, and also at the end I need to calculate how many days are like 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 past days in that month, right? So example here would be the example I have March 15. So the past days would be whatever that date, like 15th is like 15 days in that month. Okay, so let's start by writing those functions. So obviously I need to find out how many days in a month, right? That's like the easy one I can do. So let's just define a function there. So number of days in month, and here I'm going to take in year and month. The reason why I need an year is because days of the month is always not the same. When it's a leap year, the exceptional case is that February has 29 months instead of 28 days. I mean 29 days instead of 28 days, right? So that's why I need to pass into my function the year. Okay, everybody with me so far? So what I would do is so I need some sort of a list of all the months with their the days of the month, right? So one way to look at it is because we learned about list, we can use the list to store the number of days. Okay, so I know I said that using global variables is kind of bad, but in this case it's okay. So I would say I would define it up here. So usually constants, what I mean by constant is a variable which you don't change in your program, so you just only use that as a lookup. Okay, so in this case we're going to do a lookup into this list only. We're not going to modify the list or modify the contents of the list. We're just only going to do a lookup to retrieve the values. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to define it as days of the month. Okay, we're just going to call it days of the month. And the convention is that if you define a global variable that has like all caps, the convention is like that means it's a variable that you won't change. You just only look up. It's there for you for as a helper to your functions. Okay, so let's define a list. We define a list by the square brackets, and we're going to put the number of months. Okay, so it starts with January has 31 days, right? So February is 28 for non-leap year. Okay, and March 31, April 30, May 31, June. How many days in June? 30.
30.
July 31. August has 31 too, right? It repeats.
Yeah.
August, September 30th, October 31st, November 30th, and December 31st. Okay, so we should have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that's the days of the month. So knowing that, assuming that I don't know anything about leap year, how would I return the number of days in the month? So the month would be remember, if you want to index into the list, the first element of the list is always 0, right? So it starts from 0 all the way up to the size of the array, which is 12 days. So the last element index would be 12 minus 1. Okay, so which is 11. So in this case, the month we are going to get based on like 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you want to index into that list, we would need to subtract 1 from the month, right? So for example, if you assume the month is 1, somebody's passing in month 1, January. If we want to index into our days of the month list, we would need to subtract 1, right? Does that make sense? Because we need to go into the 0th index. Does that make sense? So how would you return the number of days in the month? So we can access it saying days of the month, square bracket, that's how we access it, month minus 1, right? That's how it's going to be if we don't take into account the leap year. Okay, that's why we're not using that year right now. So I just want you to understand this first of all. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
okay, so that is when we don't take into account of the leap year. So now we also need to take into account of the leap year. So let's define a function that says that finds out whether a year is leap year. Okay, so I'm going to define a function. So again, I'm going to pass year to that function, and it's going to return me either true or false. So the leap year, first of all, it has to be year has to be divisible by 4, right? For that case, we use the mod operator. So if year is divisible by 4, okay, so the remainder has to be 0. If that is the case, by the way, why do we need leap years? We need leap years because the Earth takes not 365 days to spin around the sun, but in fact it's less than that, 364.2 something. Okay, so is it sorry, 365
It's 365.2
yeah,
some
so it takes a
252.
little bit more than 365, right, to almost a
It's
quarter of the day.
365.2422.
Yeah, 2 4 exactly. So that's why I said those mathematicians said, okay, if we keep missing that 0.24 something, we're going to our seasons are going to change. So when we expect the summer to come, if you don't add that extra 2.4, our summers are going to arrive later and later and later. So they said, okay, you know what, we will add every four year, we will add 1 more day to the month February. Okay, so we will always be in sync. But then it's not exactly 0.25. If it's 0.25, then 4 makes makes sense, right? But in this case, it's not really 0.25, so it's 0.2 something less. So in order to adjust that, they said that, okay, if year is not just every 4th year, but if the year is divisible by 100, okay, we won't add that. Okay, we won't add that. But then I said, okay, that also doesn't make much like we're still off by a little bit. We have to change it such that year has to be so we will not subtract if year is not equal to or year is not divisible by 400. So we will, as I said, that first they said that we will not add that extra extra 1 day if year is divisible by 100. But then they said the calculation kind of yielded that said actually we want to make an exception for the 400th year. Okay, that's why I say, so if year is not divisible by 400, okay, so in this case we want to return false, else we return true. Else, for sure, if the year is not divisible by 4, then we have to return false.
You forgot a colon for the else.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So does that make sense here? This is my function here. So I'm saying that if year is divisible by 4, yes, we have to do something about it. We have to return true, but in order to adjust for that that 0.2 something 4, we need to say if the year is divisible by 100, we shouldn't, but exceptional cases if the year is divisible by 400. Okay, that's why I have these two conditions. So this is the condition when I should not add one more day. Okay, does that make sense, Vaishna? This makes sense. Year has, they said that year, we should not add one more day if the year is divisible by 100. But then they said the exceptional case is then when the year is divisible by 400, then we should. Okay, so that's why I said not equal to 0 and equal to 0. Then I should not add the 1. Okay, so it's very tricky. Okay, so hopefully this function works. So we can say, so now we can adjust to our number of days that we are returning, right? So I can say if is leap year, and I pass in the year. Okay, if it is leap year and month equal to, then I can just return 29 actually right here, because I know for sure leap year, right? I can do that here. Else I know it's not a leap year, and I know it's not um, like it's basically not a leap year and not the second month. Then for any of those cases, this still holds true, right? It's all these days. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now I have a function that's going to tell me number of days in month, exactly what the number of days on month based on the leap year calculation also. Okay, so going back to our case, so we have a function that's going to tell us the number of days in a full month. Okay, now we need to find out how many days in the remainder of the month. So for this one, remainder of the month is basically the number of days in the month minus the current day, right? Say for example, if I think of it as January 10th, okay, if it is January 10th, and January has 31 days, so how many days in remaining from 10th? Or actually the easy case would be if it is January 30th and say how many days remaining, it's the total number of days in January, which is 31 minus 30, right? That'll give me the number of days remaining. Am I correct? Yeah, does that make sense? So
Yeah.
let's define another function. Number of or say remaining days in month. Okay, here also I need the year because I'm going to use my previously defined function to figure out how many days in the month, right? For that I need the year, so I need here also year. Okay, so here I would say return, oh actually I need the day too, so I'm going to return number of days in month. So that function is going to give me the correct number of days in month, right? So basically the end date, basically subtract the day, right? This will give me the remaining days in the month. Does that make sense? Tell me if I'm
Yes.
making a mistake, okay? I could be making a mistake. So just keep an eye on it. Okay, we're solving the problem together, okay? So we have the remaining days in the month, okay? So going back to our thing, a diagram. So we have this part and this part. Now we need to calculate this one. This seems pretty straightforward, right? Because we're just calculating how many days were previous, prior. You know what I mean? So that is basically, if you want to, let's see, let's define the function. So that function would be, how do you want to name this? Previous days in month. Okay, again the same parameter, year, month, and day, right? So here I'm going to return, actually I don't really care about the year and the month in this case, right? Do I? So do I really need this function? Because if I
No.
have,
No.
I don't, right?
No, because you can.
It's just previous days in the month is basically
It's
the
a
day,
day.
the day
Okay,
itself, right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because let's say, okay, let's take January for example. January has 31 days. If I say the remaining days of the month, I say is remaining days in the month is, let's say, if I had a day of 15th, the remaining would be 31 minus 15, right? Which is
Yeah.
16.
16.
Okay, but so if it was 15th, if I need the previous day, I would need to add 15 to the 16 to make the total days in a month to be 31, right? So it has to be the day. I cannot say day minus 1. It has to be the day.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because the total days in the month still has to be 31. Okay, you see what I mean? That's why I'm saying it has to be the day, the previous days in the month. Okay, so I can still have this function. I'm just going to return day. Okay, it's still correct. Given a day, previous days in a month, still day. Even though
So
I'm
what
not,
happens to the year and month variables?
doesn't
Like they're not
matter.
white.
It'll just, I'm not using that
Oh, okay.
in my function. Even though it needs to be passed in, but I'm not using it. I'm just going to keep it, okay? Because it
Okay.
seems like a good function. Like I don't need to think about it. I can just call this function anytime, and it's going to tell me. Okay, I don't need to figure out whether it's a day or whatever, day minus 1 or any of that. Okay. So now I can solve for this case, the second case, which is start year equal to end year.
At start month.
Okay,
Just start month. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very important that we don't make mistakes. As you would have found out when you're coding, even one single mistake ruins your whole program. Okay, so in this case, let's think about it. So we just need to go from month to month, right? So we have a start month to end month, right? Go back to our program, I mean the diagram. So we have the start month to all the way to the end month. So for the start month, we just only need to calculate the remaining days of the month. And for the end month, we only need to calculate the previous days in the month.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the months, we need to calculate the total days of the month. And we need to add them all together, right? Does that make sense? Krishna?
Yes.
Yeah.
Inya, does that make sense? Just visualizing this diagram, right? If you want to calculate the total days in between, like these are the same year but these are different months, and the day could start somewhere in the month, right? It's basically somewhere here or here, right? Basically, we need to calculate the remaining days in the month for the first month or the start month, and for the end month we only need to calculate the previous days of the month, right? The end date could be somewhere here, but doesn't matter, but we still need to calculate the previous days of the month because we need to go all the way to the end. So for the start month we only need to calculate the remaining days of the month, and for the end month we just only need to calculate the up to previous days of the month. And for the rest of the months in between the start month and end month, we need to sum the full days of the month. Okay, so far you guys with me? So in this case we need to loop, right? We need to loop from the start month to end month. We need to sum it up, all those little portions of the days, right? So remember in the banking application, the ATM, how did we sum up the balance? Every time somebody deposited, we kept a variable, right, outside of our loop, and
Balance
every
variable.
time, yes, every time somebody deposited, we added to that balance. So same, we're going to use the same pattern here. So we'll call this days. Okay, so we'll start with 0 initially. So now I'm going to say for m for month in, I'm going to create a range. Okay, so the range has to start with start month all the way up to, tricky question, what
To
should,
the end month.
-1.
no, it has to be not -1, +1, because remember the range, the second argument to the range, it's not inclusive, it's exclusive, right? Do you guys remember that in my previous lesson?
Yeah.
So it has to be n month plus 1, then only the m would be assigned from start month to end month, because the end is exclusive. Krishna, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a list of months, the correct months, right? Start month to end month. Okay, m for that month. Okay, we can actually call this month because we don't have any other variable defined here that's called month. Okay, so now we have our functions that's going to calculate the days, right? So if, remember we said that if it's a start month, we only need to calculate the remaining days of the month, right? So let's do that. So we will say in the loop, remember the loop starts with the block, whatever in the block will get executed every time for that month, right? So if month is equal to start month, okay, days have to be equal to days plus, which function do we need to call?
The remainder of the days.
Yes, so remaining days in the month. So in this, yeah, start year, here it will be the month, right? And it'll be the, so I could pass the start month, doesn't matter, same thing, because we're checking start month equal to month, so month is going to be equal to start month, so I can either pass start month or month and start day, right? That's gonna give me the previous days of the month. So remaining day, not, did I say remaining days? Yeah, remaining days. So if we go to remaining days of the month, right? Yes, everybody with me on that? Okay, so now for the other case, the end month. So elif month equal to end month. This case, what do I need to add?
Days equal to days plus previous days in month, and then you pass in, or previous days in month, and then you pass in the end day.
Yeah, so basically the end year here, end year and end month really doesn't matter, but I'm just going to pass in. Okay, end day, right? So I mean, we can still keep this function here, or we can just pass in days plus end day, because here we're returning the end day. You see that? But just for readability purpose, I'm going to keep it in there. Okay, because when somebody is reading a function, if they just say, if they see the verbs remaining days and previous days, then it's easy for them to understand what's going on, instead of just returning end day here. You know, it's going to be a little hard for them to understand what you're trying to do. You see, the program that you're writing has to be readable by someone else. That's very important. Okay, so the last case is what? Else. What do I need to add to the days? Krishna. So remember a diagram. This is the case that we're trying to solve for. For the first month, we said get the remaining days. For the last month, we said get the previous days. And for the rest of the months, what do I need?
The number of days in the month.
Yes, right? So we're going to say, where's our function? Number of days in month. So in this case, I'm gonna pass in. It doesn't matter which year, because start year and end year are same, right? So I'm gonna pass in start year, and the month has to be the month, right? That's gonna give me the number of days in the month. Correct? And at the end of the loop, right? So my loop is done. So now I need to get out of the loop. Okay, I should not stay in the loop. I need to get out of the loop. This is see, the loop, whatever the instruction that are executed in the loop is whatever the indented parts. Okay, so anything inside this indent, that's what gets executed for each iteration of the loop. So one mistake that people make is that you know, the days are outside, right? If I return days here, or right, I'm going to return days for the first iteration. I haven't summed up all the months. Okay, so we have to be really careful of where we return. So what we need to return is outside, like basically the same level as we define the days, basically the outside of the for loop. Because in the for loop, we're calculating all the days, right? Summing it to the days. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so we have the days for the second case, right? When start year and end year are the same. So we pretty much solved it for this, our first case, we solved it, and for the second case, we solved it. And the last case is when it's when the start date is like completely outside of another year, completely in another year, and the end date is in another year. Okay, that's the case. So how do we solve for this one? We need a function that calculates how many days in a year, right? For sure we need that, because as per our diagram, sorry, wrong one.
Trying to do something.
Sorry, you guys see my screen? Yeah, so I clicked the wrong one. So as per our diagram, we need to, at least for sure, we need to calculate the number of days in the whole year, right? So let's define that function. Okay, so we'll call this number of days in year, and pass in the year. So how do I calculate this one? How many days in a year?
365.
And if it's a leap year, it's 366.
366.
Right. So let's call our function. If is leap year, if it is a leap year, I'm going to return 366. Right? Otherwise, I return 365. Right? So now I have a function that calculates this portion here. Sorry, here, this portion. Right? Now I need to calculate this one, the remainder of the days in year. How do I do that? Let's define a function. Okay. So at least I need the year, month, and day, right? From that day of that month of that year, I need to figure out all the rest of the days in that year. Correct? How do I do this? Can I use
For loop.
yes? So I definitely need a for loop, but I need to calculate the days, right? Let's define a days variable similar to how we did here, right? So I'm going to say for, obviously I need to go by month, and so in this case I'm going to define it as m because I already have a variable called month. So m in range which range am I going to go from what month to what month. Remember, if you visualize the year, right, year has 12 months and I'm going to start on some month, right, and I need to go all the way up to the end of the month. So what will be the start here? Month, right? Whatever the month that was given. And the end has to be
13.
13. Why 13?
Because the range doesn't calculate like the last one.
Right, range doesn't give you the last one. So now what do I need to do? So if it is the first month, I need to calculate the remainder of the days in the month, right? So days would, so I would say if m equal to month, right? That's going to say it's the first month because month was the first month given here, right? If it is the first month, I'm going to say days equal to days plus, how can I find this out? I already have a function, right? Remaining days in the month, right? I'm going to call that remaining days in month. I'm going to pass an year. I can pass the month. That's it. Remaining days in a month. I need to pass the day as well. Right? Because the remaining days of the month expects the day as well. Because it needs to calculate the number of days in a month minus the day. Krishna, are you following? Yeah. Okay. So for if the month is the first month, I calculate the remaining days in the month, which I have a function for. I call that. Okay. Now, unlike this case where I needed to figure out the end month, in this case, do I really need to find out the end month? No, right? Because there's no difference between the end month and the months in between, because those are whole months. I need that. So I can just say else days equal to days plus, which one is this? Which function is this?
Get number of days in month.
Yeah. Is it get number of days? Number of days in month. Okay.
Yeah, number of days in month.
Number of days in month. So we pass the year, and the month has to be, which one I had to pass here? Which variable do I need to pass here?
Month plus 1.
No.
M.
M.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm looping, right? Every month. This is the start of the month. I already checked M equal to month, so I could pass M here. But a month and M are same here in this condition, right? So here I'm just passing whatever the month. Okay, so now you get it, right, Krishna?
Yes.
So now we just need to return the days. We already calculated all the days. Just make sure to get out of the loop. Okay, so that's why we need to go tab out, and then here return days. Okay, so now we have the function to calculate the remainder of the days in the year. Okay, going back to our diagram, we have this function now. Okay, we have this one too, number of days in a year. Now we just need a function for this one, previous days of the year. Let's define that function. So again, year, month, and day, right? How do we calculate this one? Previous days in a year.
If it's a leap year, then it's 366 minus remainder days a year in year, and if it's not a leap year, then it's 365 minus remainder.
Yeah,
days
that's
in year.
also a good one, right? We can do that. Let's do that. So if is leap year, if it's a leap year, we need to return number of days in a year. We already have a function for that. It's going to tell us it's 365 or 366, right? Minus remainder of the days in year, month, day.
You don't need to have the if is leap year. You could just return it because the
Correct.
number of days in the year calculates if it's
Already
a leap year.
calculates it, right? Perfect. So this should work. So total number of days in the year minus remainder of the days in the year. That should give me the previous days in the year. Just like we did here up here. Here we didn't need to do anything. We just needed to return the day because we already have that day. That's going to tell us how many days. Right? In this case, total minus the remainder. That sounds pretty simple. Right? So a problem that we thought that was so complex, it turned out to be pretty simple. Krishna, are you following?
Yeah.
So now it's our last case, right? The most complex one we thought, but it's actually not that complex. So again, what do we need to do here in this case? So this is the case when the start date and the end date are on a different year. Okay, for that case, okay, again, similar to here, we'll define days. Okay, now obviously we need to go from year by year in our diagram. Go back to our diagram. We need to do year by year, right? So what year are we going to start in our range? We need to loop for sure, right? So we're going to say for year in range. What's my start year? Start year, right? And the end year?
Plus
And
1.
Yes, end year plus 1, right? Because why? The second argument is exclusive. So now we're going to start doing. So if So this is going to be similar to this one. So we have to see which one is the start year and which one is the end year and the rest of the years, right? Because for the start year we need to calculate the remainder of the days. For the end year we need to calculate the previous days of the year. And first, for the rest of the year, we just calculate the total number of days in the year, right? Correct? So let's do that. So if year equal to start year, I'm going to say days must be equal to days plus previous days in a year. This is going to be start year, start month, and the day, start day, right? And then if LF year equal to end year, days has to be equal to days plus what is it, remainder, no, previous, no, this one should be remaining days. You guys let me down, man. Right, remainder of days in a year, right? If it's the first year, right, it has to be the remainder of the days in the year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so remainder days. If it's end year, then it's previous days in a year, right? So here will be end year, end month, end day, right? And for the rest of the days, rest of the years, it will say forgetting days equal to days plus what is it, number of days in year. And here the year will be year. We have to pass in the year, right? This year, correct? So it's very similar to this one, right? And then we return out of it. We make sure to return it outside the loop. Okay, so return the days. So all our conditions, if we come into any of one of those blocks, we have a return statement that's going to tell us the days. Okay, that seems like it's going to work, right? We have solved it. So let's just print out some dates, and
You have to get an input.
yeah, but I'm just gonna, that part we already know. That's the part where we loop and we get the input. We already know that. So because of time constraints, I'm just going to do the calculation. Okay, calculate number of days in between. So what was the first one I gave? Start year. The examples that I gave in the, somebody tell me please.
The first one was 20 from year 2021, month 2, day 1, to year 2021, month 2, and then day 2.
Okay, that's my first one.
The second
Second
the
one.
second one is from year 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The month is the January, so first month.
Mm-hmm.
Day 15.
Mm.
The year is 2020. Third month, and then day 15.
Okay.
And then the next one was from year 2021, month 1,
Mm-hmm.
day 15,
Mm-hmm.
to year 2021, day, and then the rest are the same.
Okay. This, are you sure this
And
is
then,
2020 and this? Okay, okay.
and then the last one was from year 2020, month 3, day 30th to 2021, 12 and 10.
All right, so let's just run this. Are those the days? Are they correct?
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
it is.
so that seems like it's correct, right?
Yeah.
So so that is the approach that I take to solve a problem. Okay, so we start with the base case. Okay, then
What's a base case?
the simplest case. The simplest case was when it's the same dates. Two dates are same days, and then I know for sure the number of days in between is 0, right? And I say that's too easy. Okay, let's step it up. When it's the same month. Okay, when it's the same month, how do we calculate? It's the days, the difference between those days. Okay, we're good. The other one is a little bit more complex. Is when different months but same year. So in that case, I just need to loop through each of the months, right? And I just need to calculate the number of days remaining in the first month, and the previous days in the last month, and the rest of the days in between. So sum it up. That's done. Then for the other case, when the days between different years, I'm going to say, hey, let me just use the same type of strategy as I did for the month. Instead of doing it for the month, I just do it for the year, right? So we see the pattern. As soon as we saw this pattern, we just replicated that pattern. And to calculate the remainder of the days in the year and previous days in the year, we use the same kind of pattern, right? Looping through, right? So that looks pretty good. Any questions? Now, you guys did your programs. Now, Velan Krishna, to what you guys did on your own, to what we did right now, can you think of ways where you can improve your program?
Shorten codes and add in more loops.
I didn't use the range function. I could use that instead of having multiple lists and then getting rid of values in that list.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, correct.
So what we learned is, like, in order to loop through, we can use the range, right? We don't need to create another list. And I know you were popping the list, right? That seems very redundant now, right? Knowing what you can do. Okay, but there's nothing wrong with what you did. It's just that there are better ways of doing it. That's what I'm coming to here. And Krishna, I've seen that you in the while loop you define functions inside the while loop, right? You should not do that. So remember how we did here? We define all the functions up front, right? Then you start your main function, and so up until now, I've told you that don't do the function within the function. That's a different concept altogether. So don't get that mixed with what you're doing right now. So when you define your functions right now, all the functions should be up front, okay? And then in your main function, you do the user interaction, getting the input from the user, right? And then calling the functions. And the main takeaway in this is that how you break the problem into smaller problems, right? So, and you solve those smaller problems in these functions, okay? And then having these type of things, like when really we're not using, it's not a recommended practice that, if you, that's why it's highlighting this. But sometimes it's okay, because it tells me right away what I'm trying to accomplish here, right? You know what I mean? So just by reading this function, right? Your function should not be more than the screen space. And when you read that function, you should be able to understand what exactly it's trying to do here. By having verbs for your function, you can kind of decipher what the function is doing, right? You don't need to go into this function to figure out what it's actually doing. As long as it's properly named and it's stating the intent of the function, then you can pretty much understand what the algorithm is doing, right? You know what I mean? In fact, I can go another step and say I can define this whole thing in another function and this one in another function and call those functions for these cases. I mean, that's another approach, but maybe we should do that, and maybe, I don't know. I mean, if it gets a lot bigger, then I would break this problem into more smaller functions. Okay. Okay, so for next class, what do you guys want to do? Are you guys getting comfortable with loops and if statements and functions?
Yeah,
Or do you guys want more practice?
a bit more practice.
Okay, so I'm going to assign. I'm going to go to the. I'm just going to Google and find out some simple problems that we can do in Python, and I will just put it up on the classroom. Okay, and then you guys can try it out. Okay.
Do we submit them?
Yeah. Oh, another thing is that when you submit the next assignment, like I'm gonna give you an assignment tomorrow, the assignment number 4. When you submit it, you submit the file. Okay, this file to me, so I can run your program. Because right now you guys are submitting just the screenshots, right? That way,
Yeah.
I cannot verify whether your code is actually running. It's supposed to be running. So if you send me the file itself. So for example, this project that I have, if you right click on it, where is it? Open in Finder. I don't know what you have in Windows. So if you go there, that's where all your files will be. Do you have something equivalent in Windows? Yeah.
We have file paths and we have Explorer.
Yeah. If you go to Explorer,
It's in the local disk
yeah.
on our PCs.
So you just attach me that whatever the file that you're working on, okay? Then I can copy paste that on my end and then run the program. Make sure it works.
Okay.
You guys get that?
Yeah.
All right. So I will send you practice questions, okay? Because some of the practice questions that you see on the web is like might be a little advanced. So I'll pick the right ones for you guys and send it to you. I'll send it to you tonight. Okay. So practice. That's the only way to get better. I hope this assignment kind of inspired you guys. Did it? Something that seemed daunting was achievable, right? All right. So that's it for today. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.